Ah. Hey guys, I'm Anderson9132, and I'm the Robot Wars Guru. Well, the Christmas season is upon us again, which can only mean one thing. Everything that has ever existed is about to release its Christmas special. Whether it's a TV show, or a YouTube channel, or even a well-known brand, everyone seems to plunge their fork into the proverbial money pie known as Christmas cash-in. And believe it or not, Robot Wars is no different. In fact, there have been 9, yes, bloody 9 of these damn things. 5 in Series 4, 2 in Series 9, and 2 in Series 10. Some were great, and some were terrible. And what better way for me to cash in, celebrate Christmas, than me ranking all 9 of them from worst to best. This is the content that you guys subscribed for. So sit back, scoff a mince pie, fill your arteries with eggnog, and relax as I rank every Robot Wars Christmas special. Number 9, Battle of the Stars Episode 1. Well, this was shit. What happens when you get a bunch of boring celebrities with no interest in robot combat, 4 excruciatingly bland stock robots that barely work, 4 legit roboteers who deserve better, and Christmas? You get a recipe for one of the single worst episodes of Robot Wars that has ever existed. I mean, Christ! Not one battle was fun, not one celebrity was memorable, not one moment drew any positive emotion from me. It's just so bland and uninteresting, to the point that watching it feels like you're looking into the abyss, waiting for it to look back into you. Also, blatantly lying to your audience, saying these celebrities built these robots with help from their personal experts, when in reality the production crew built them, is a complete joke. And I wouldn't mind that so much if they actually gave a fuck, but instead they clearly just turned up to make numbers, played with some robots, and then just left it for their respective experts to fix for them. Oh, and I have no fucking clue who these people are, by the way. Like, any of them. Not a single one of these celebrities is someone I've heard of. That's not exactly the show's fault, but it doesn't exactly get any points with me either. Fuck this episode. Next. Number 8, World Series Episode 2. The special foregone conclusion episode. People rag on the classic series World Championships for being heavily favoured towards UK robots, which is true, but don't try to tell me that the reboot did it better either, because they really bloody didn't. I mean, for fuck's sakes, look at the stark contrast between Team UK and Team International here. Team UK have current reigning champions Eruption, former 2-time UK heavyweight champions Big Nipper, former grand finalist Concussion, and another former grand finalist in Thor. Team International, meanwhile, had Cathad, which was arena cleaner in drag, Weber, a robot from Russia, a country that at this point in time had only been doing the sport for about 2 years, Terra Turtle, the robot with the single worst win-to-loss ratio in the history of Robot Wars, and the Bash, which whilst a fun concept, sadly didn't live up to it because it was broken beyond repair after being flipped twice. Because of this, the episode was pretty much a whitewash, with a bullshit point swap being enforced simply to make it look like less of a whitewash. I mean, good God, it wasn't even close! And I wouldn't mind if this domination would have given us some spectacle or good fights, but it just didn't. And that's not to say that it's all trite. Thor vs Tough as Nails was a good fight between 2 very different designed robots, and Big Nipper nearly losing to Terra Turtle was a jaw-dropper, but apart from that, there's nothing this episode has to offer. Number 7, Battle of the Stars Episode 2. Episode 2 of Battle of the Stars was a much better episode than its predecessor, though that really isn't saying much. But in all honesty, I can't judge this episode too unfairly. All the robots were much more interesting and were enjoyable to watch perform. We got some good spectacle too, with Kadena Machina yeeting D into the stratosphere. Hey, we even got a couple of good battles out of it as well, with a special shout out going to Robo Savage vs Soldier Ant. But alas, despite having all of this, there are still some glaring issues. Much like the first one, the celebrities in this episode may as well have not even been there, and when it comes to Robbie Savage, I wish they bloody hadn't. And for every good moment I previously mentioned, there are several bland or bad ones. Overall, it's not a bad episode, I would say, but it's not good either. It just sort of exists. Then again, don't we all just exist? Whoa. Number 6, World Series Episode 1. Finally! A good episode! Well, goodish. Saying all 4 of the reboot specials are worse than all 5 of the Series 4 specials might be considered a bit of a hot take, but it's true nonetheless. Still, at least they got one right. Kinda. At least it isn't such a fucking landslide of favouritism towards the UK side this time. Okay, fine, Team UK have former champions Apollo, but they were only Heat finalists in Series 10. Sabretooth, Gabriel and Terahertz meanwhile were all also returning Heat finalists with less pedigree. Then again, Team International did have 2 bloody stock robots, so meh. Speaking of which, Kadena Machina from Battle of the Stars Episode 2 returned as Dietor, and then it died almost immediately. Fuck's sake. Still, it was great to see Peter and the Fur back one last time. Also, there were some good battles here, with the opening tag match being a banger where all 4 robots got stuck into the action and did their absolute best. I also find Sabretooth vs Cobra very underrated, as it's a great demonstration that drive and control can easily outclass a better weapon. And the spectacle was on a high point in this episode, with Fire being prominent and Apollo nearly flipping to kill a lot. But alas, some issues still remain. Again, there are a few dud battles in there. Tomahawk, whilst a cool robot entered by a wonderful team, was barely in control throughout, and good god, the blatant line to the audience really grated on me. Peter Redmond saying that robots in the classic days were made of tinfoil is just stupid. I get that you need to big up how much robots have advanced over the years, but that's just taking the piss. Apparently Rabbidmate is the most successful Portuguese robot ever, despite it being a British stock robot that we saw only 1 year earlier. Oh, and calling Gabriel the most successful Thwackbot in Robot Wars history is just untrue. But all things considered, it's a solid episode. Number 5, the Celebrity Special. Many people might be shocked that I put this as high as it is, but I think this episode is unfairly treated, and I will die on that hill. The issue I have with everyone who doesn't like this episode is that they all try to take it too seriously. For fuck's sake, it's dedicated to celebrities driving robots, it was never going to be taken seriously. And that's where the modern ones failed in my opinion, because they took a daft concept and tried to make something serious out of it. Thankfully here, they realised the best thing to do was just let the celebrities have fun and be themselves. All the gimmicks and props, whilst silly, added to the madness and the battles were completely bonkers. It was almost like Robot Wars was on an acid trip, and I loved it. I'd much rather see daft, silly, crazy shit like this than a boring, bland snoozer between 2 dud robots. Speaking of robots, they did the sensible thing here and used robots that were actually on the damn show. And the choices of robot were all well done in my opinion. Not only did we get a nice mix of old robots, serious contenders, comedy robots, promising newcomers, and iron ore, but each robot matched the celebrity they were paired with. Victories being partnered with Dietor and Eterna Sisters being partnered with Gemini are perfect examples. Sure, it's not a perfect episode, but I really don't get the hate for this one. It's just a load of good fun, daft entertainment. Number 4, the War of Independence. The idea of having the UK versus US is something that has really captured fans' imaginations over the years. Robot Wars versus Battlebots, Redcoats versus Rednecks, Sophisticated Gentlemen versus whatever the hell this guy is. And being honest, whilst I'll admit the Series 4 War of Independence could have been done a lot better, and have done it better myself, link in the description below, it was still a very enjoyable episode. Seeing Mortis dominate Ghettobot and Frenzy pound the daylights out of Detonator were jolly good fun, whilst Panic Attack and Ramside had a surprisingly good power versus control match. But the 2 big ones were Mortis getting revenge on Panic Attack in the semi-finals before then beating Frenzy in an underrated gem of a battle. Seeing Mortis and Rob Knight finally win a trophy after 4 years before announcing Mortis' retirement is one of those bittersweet moments that will never leave me. Sure, there are the issues with the ridiculous xenophobia, and Ming 2 vs Frenzy was a dud, but the good by far outweighed the bad. My way is still better though. Number 3, the Southern Annihilator. Okay, so we are now at the elite tier section of this list. Even the good episodes I've mentioned thus far have had at least one big flaw, but from this point on, each episode is an outright banger. It's a shame to have to put the Southern Annihilator as low as 3rd because it's a fantastic episode. The robots competing were all versatile, from powerhouses like Razor, Spawner, Scudder and Behemoth to plucky underdogs like Attila the Drummer and Onslaught. Oh, and Vercingetorix was there too. Speaking of Onslaught, I don't care what anyone says, this is easily one of my favourite Robot Wars campaigns ever. The plucky little robot that no one thought could do it, giving every other robot one hell of a fight and nearly going all the way just to fall at the final hurdle. It gets me on the edge of my seat every time. And who could forget the awesome final where viewers witnessed Razor chew Matilda a new arse. Rigged or not, this is one of the most memorable and downright hilarious moments in the show's history. Seeing Matilda bandaged up had me crying with laughter when I was a kid, and I still chuckle at it to this day. Being honest, the only real downer for this episode was the Behemoth forfeit, hence why I can only put it 3rd. But don't let that distract you from just how awesome this episode truly is. Number 2, the Northern Annihilator. What's that? Thought this was going to be number 1? Ha! I pulled a mighty swerve there. Seriously though, what hasn't been said about this episode? It's considered by many to be the best episode of not only Series 4, but of the entire classic series. The opening battle is one of the most praised fights in the show's history, and Spikosaurus' campaign in this Annihilator was legendary. A first round dropout in the same episode as the reigning champions, a grand finalist, a semi-finalist, a 2-time heat finalist, and a BattleBots legend, and it still came out on top. You could say it was lucky, but you can't deny that it definitely held its own in there, even immobilizing suicidal tendencies. This episode also featured Chaos 2's first televised loss, as its loss to Razor wasn't aired until after this. So if it's so good, why is it only second? Well, it's more for personal reasons and critical reasons, I'm afraid, which I'll get to when discussing number 1. But at least you can all go to bed tonight happy, knowing that I at least consider this to be the best Annihilator of all time. Until I watch the first Extreme 1 Annihilator again, and then I'll think that one's the best. If only someone would compare those two. Number 1. The Tag Team Terror. Of course it's this. Of course it's the birth of my all-time favourite Robot Wars tournament. It was never not going to be this. For those who don't know, Tag Team Terrors are my personal favourite types of battle in Robot Wars. It's just the chaotic nature of them, with all the robots breaking the rules set upon them. That's the personal reason I mentioned earlier. But believe me, it's more than just that solidified this episode as number 1. Simply put, this is the only episode of the entire lot of Christmas specials that composes of entirely great battles. Even the Northern Annihilator had one fight that was pretty meh, but this episode knocked it out of the park. Firestorm and Scorpion vs Big Brother and Plunderbird 4 is up there as one of my all-time favourite battles, just down to how mental it was. Not only did we get hilariously poor performances from Plunderbird and Scorpion, but Firestorm and Bigger Brother had a fantastic scrap with two of the best drivers in the sport trying to one-up each other. JP shouting himself hoarse on commentary at the utter chaos ensuing just added to the entertainment. 101 in King B3 vs Exterminator and Invertebrate was a great display of teamwork and power, outdoing superior weaponry in a tremendous scrap. The third place playoff was amazing, because despite Plunderbird and Invertebrate doing sweet fuck and all, Bigger Brother and Exterminator had a very close back and forth brawl with both machines pulling out all the stops. And the final. Good God, the final. Seeing my baby Firestorm and Scorpion being slowly worn down until they eventually conked out was incredible, and King B3 and 101 turning on each other at the very end and having a battle of their own was fantastic. Everything about this episode just fit together perfectly like a jigsaw puzzle. And the final picture was something amazing. Seeing King B3 and 101 putting on arguably their last great performances is also a true gem to watch. Do I get why people think the Northern Annihilator is better? Yes. Do I give even one atom of a shit? Not one bit. And that's it for this video. Do you agree with me or do you think I'm an idiot? How would you rank the Christmas specials? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'm Ants9132, the Robot Wars Guru, and I'll see you in 2021 for what will hopefully be a much better year. See you then.